Okay, this time through I'm doing the classic bouncing ball, so I'm just actually going to save this first. It's actually a good habit to get into. This is the 5th tutorial I've done. Classic bouncing ball. So this one is going to be relatively easy. I'm going to have 2 layers. The first will be a background. So I've got a reference point to work with, and I'm just going to put just a straight line straight across that. If you hold down shift, your lines can actually go for like 45-degree angles, like I suppose like a compass. But yeah, drawing out that gives me what I need. I'm going to run this for, I don't know, 65, 70, let's go 90 seconds. We'll see how we go. Insert a frame. Done. We'll lock that layer and just ignore it from now on. If you're going to do your own background, please make it more interesting than mine. Next up, we're going to need a ball. Yeah, that'll do. Nice red ball. So, holding down here, just note when you're at the equal aspect ratio, the little circle appears under the mouse pointer, or you can hold shift to force the issue. Done. Now, selecting once to get the fill, double clicking to get the whole lot. I'm going to convert this to a symbol. It's going to be ball. Normally this one defaults to a movie clip symbol, but for reasons, this is currently on a graphic. It really doesn't matter in this case. Movie clips are great for web animations and that sort of stuff, or interactive content that can be programmed. So for us, not so important. Alright, right clicking on the timeline layer 2 in this case, which I should rename in a sec. I'm going to make it a motion tween, and that will allow me to set the ball up for movement. I'm going to call this ball bouncing, and probably should put an underscore in the middle of all that. Done. Alright, so I need to get the ball moving. Now I need to focus on timing at this point. Then I'll move on to arcs and finally squash and stretch. But first up, I've got 90 frames and I want the ball to strike the ground 3 times. So if I was doing, say, 60 seconds, which I probably should just do just because it makes it easy, I can go, frame 10, I want it to come down, hit the ground. Done. And notice this horizontal height here, from this point through to here. So I'm just I'll add a layer so I can draw on this. Random drawing. That's it. Yep. Oh, right, it doesn't like the spaces. All right, so first thing is, if I look at this layer, great. I have the starting point here. I'm going to lock that and just go to here. I have that as my starting point. It's a big whopping great big line, but let's just reduce that down to something a little more visible. All right, I've got a line there. When it hits, I want that here. So this distance here is how far the ball moves in half a bounce, because it starts high, ends low. Great. I need to double that distance for the next one. So for the next one, I'd probably be aiming around here. The third bounce around here, and so on and so forth. Now, because it takes 10 frames to get to here, it's going to take another 20 frames to move to there, and so on and so forth. That should be a 0. So 50, 70, so on. So I'm going to stop my animation at 80 frames. I'm just going to remove the excess. Done. And have it bounce off the edge here. So that's just a reference, random drawing for me. You don't need it. Ignore it. So I'm going to get rid of that. Actually, I might just leave it there for the second to make the bouncing of the ball easier. Frame 30. Use a little black arrow, drag it along and go, oops. No, I've locked it. That would be it. Get rid of that one. So just on the layer I'm working on, that to there, frame 50, that to there, frame 70, that to there, and frame 80, it flies off the edge. Let's just out that way. All right. So we have our multiple contact points. I might move this one back a bit. So if you see the slightly darker dot there, you can actually grab those and move them. And when you hover the mouse over it, it gets a little L-shaped corner. If you hover over the standard line, you get a curve. The curve basically means, I will adjust the curve. So anyhow, first up, the timing's right. I've got movement going on, and I'll tidy that one up half that distance there, so it puts it about here. All right, that's about that height, let's say. I'll drop it down a little bit. Because as a ball bounces, it decreases in height. So, getting these arcs right, I can just grab that, pull it around, and I have a bouncing ball arc, and it works it all out for me. Now it slides across here, but I can fix those. So this one, about the midpoint, drag that up. I don't want it to bounce that high. This one for about that high. And each time I'm trying to sort of drop that height by a consistent amount, because doing something like this is not going to look right. If I hit play, you'll see points, points, dunce, wah. So obviously I'll just do it that way. So that way it should get a fairly consistent amount. Now because this is here focusing on timing, it needs to peak at that point. So I need to raise this up so it hits that maximum and bend the line just so it sort of comes into that. So it looks like it moves like this. Great. So that's timing and arcs for a bouncing ball. I'm going to save this at this point, just make sure it's saved. And now I'm going to focus in on squash and stretch. Squash and stretch, and I'm going to hide this top layer because I really don't need it. In fact, I could probably just delete it. But squash and stretch. When the ball strikes the ground, it's going to squish a little bit. So, frame before, what I want to do is I want to indicate that movement. And so I'm going to distort the ball to make it happen. So the trick is the frame before and the frame after, number 10 here, I'm going to set its scale so that it's full-sized, and then between squish it down. So let's get that done. So the frame before, I'm going to turn on onion skinning and zoom in a little bit. Boom, boom. Oops. Space to zoom over here. I'm going to grab this and overlap it here. That should be about right. Great. Then moving to frame 11, do the same thing. Great, I've got overlap. Now, if I move to the frame in between, well, actually I'll move the frame back because I need to show you this. So if you look at it, when you keyframe stuff in a motion tween, and this is in a motion tween, it can record all sorts of information. In this case, I'm just going to grab it all. For this animation, I'm only doing scale, but I just tend to do all because that way I know what's going on. There are some cases where you'd want to go, oh wait, I only need to animate one thing and I want to then animate a different thing at a different point, so I will only do that one thing. But yeah, that's for other cases. So here in this middle frame, I can use this free transform tool to adjust its size, but we've just encountered a problem. You can see here, oh, the ball pulls up from the ground and also down from the top. We don't want that, undo. What we want to do is we want to make it bounce from here. So one option will be to hold down Alt and draw it down. Done. The other option is to move the radio button in the center down to the ground level and then adjust it that way. So if we look at this, I'll turn off onion skinning so it becomes a little clearer. Zoom out. You can see squish, done. That's pretty simple. We've got the little bounce happening here. I'm going to go through and repeat this for the others, and then we'll have a look at the other end, okay? So I'll just fast forward through this and zoom. All right, so hopefully I'll get rid of that layer, delete it. All right, the animation is pretty much done. In fact, it is done. So let's just check it. And you can see here, and I really want to get rid of that line. So, yeah, perfect. And so as you look at it, you'll notice it's squish, 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 squish. This one doesn't quite work right, and I did that on purpose. Because when it strikes here, I record purely the scale, everything. But when it hits here, I'm just recording the scale, sorry, the position on this frame and this frame. And in this frame in the middle, I also record the scale. So what it's done is it starts rescaling that ball as it's flying up and before it strikes the ground. You can see that having an effect there. And that's just the result of what's going on. Now, obviously, I don't want you to make the mistake. I did this on purpose so you could see the difference. But there are cases where you'll want to key in particular things, but not other things. And that really depends on the animation. For this one, you can just key in the whole lot and get the bouncing ball happen. As always, save and export as media. And I'll leave the next one up to you. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this tutorial set, so just play and have fun with it. Thanks for your time and see ya.